Every day, millions of people set goals and visualize success, only to fall back into the same destructive patterns. Recurring failures are often attributed to a lack of willpower, but our behavior is actually a byproduct of how our physical brain tissue interprets the world. A famous neurological study illustrates this through newborn kittens, creatures whose brains are effectively blank slates. Researchers raised them in total darkness, except for a few hours each day when they were placed inside cylinders painted exclusively with high-contrast horizontal black and white stripes. When these kittens were later released into a normal environment, they were found to be functionally blind. If a researcher held a vertical bar in front of them, the kittens wouldn't react. They were physically incapable of perceiving vertical objects. This wasn't a lack of desire to see. Their brains had simply pruned away the specific neural connections required to process vertical light during their development. Because the kittens were never exposed to vertical lines, their biological perception was restricted by their early programming. The brain can only see what it has been wired to expect. Neuroscientist Emily McDonald suggests that we are all kittens in our own lives. We operate through heavily pruned perception filters that were built during our past conditioning. Opportunities and wealth are frequently available in our immediate environment, but the brain's filtering system, which prioritizes safety and past experience, can render them invisible. If our neural architecture is wired for scarcity, we effectively prune our awareness of complex social and economic openings, leaving us as blind to opportunity as the kittens were to vertical objects. This biological reality dictates our results. We do not attract what we want. We only attract what our brains are physically wired to perceive. Our reality is governed by a rigid internal model of identity. This model acts as a physical blueprint that the brain uses to navigate the world. This fMRI scan shows the default mode network, or DMN. It maintains your internal identity model, predicting your thoughts and behaviors milliseconds before you're consciously aware of making a choice. Your nervous system effectively chooses for you based on its existing map. This subconscious predictive machinery controls the gap between our conscious desires and our actual behavior, often sabotaging us before we can even begin to change. Self-doubt functions as a biological dopamine destroyer. It chemically neutralizes the specific molecule required to drive the motivation for action. When we are stressed or uncertain, the amygdala hijacks our perception. This fear center forces the brain to scan exclusively for threats, effectively filtering out any positive opportunities that don't serve the immediate goal of safety. This creates a dangerous loop. The brain actually releases a small hit of dopamine when it confirms a deeply held belief, even if that belief is negative. If your core identity is rooted in failure, your brain will subconsciously manufacture setbacks just to experience the chemical reward of being right. Our brains do not just listen to our thoughts, they monitor our physical habits to verify who we are. Reciting affirmations while breaking daily promises to yourself has a heavy biological cost. Your brain begins to view you as an untrustworthy person, eroding your internal sense of self-trust. This lack of trust triggers nervous system dysregulation. You enter a state of high alert, where your body feels unsafe and constantly braced for impact. A dysregulated nervous system drains the baseline energy required to manifest a new life, leaving you too exhausted to build anything new. To perceive the vertical stripes of a new reality, we rely on Hebbian law. Neurons that fire together, wire together. We must force new neural connections through deliberate action. This is neuroplasticity in action. Every time you override a familiar negative impulse, you weaken an old neural pathway and physically strengthen a new one. Shifting your identity requires a to-be list rather than a to-do list. You must identify the habits and energy of your future self and begin acting as that person immediately. Massive goals are achieved by the newly wired version of yourself that you were forced to become to reach them. To achieve the unimaginable, you must maintain a level of belief that feels delusional before any real-world evidence exists. This delusion serves a biological purpose. It generates the initial flood of dopamine required to motivate the brain through the heavy lifting of neuroplasticity. Maintaining this belief and keeping your word to yourself regulates your nervous system, stabilizing the pathways you are trying to build. This deliberate, biological process of rebuilding your brain's physical structure allows you to finally perceive and capture a new reality.